Hello, friends. Today I am before you with the topic The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. And this lecture is meant for the students of Semester 2 English Core, paper 201. And today I shall present some basic information about this work, and then I will come to uh, the general introduction of the work, and finally I will try to provide you the notes as the rape of the lock as a social satire. The theme, you can say, how does it present the contemporary society of England in a very satiric way. I will also try to provide you the notes as the rape of the lock as a mock epic or mock heroic poem or work of art. First, the rape of the lock is one of the greatest satires in the history of modern English literature. The 18th century that is also known as Augustan period is marked for the satires. It was the age of reason and prose. Almost half of the century that was dominated by Alexander Pope. There are great satirists like Dryden, Bunyan, and a few others. But no other satirist is as effective, as penetrative as Alexander Pope is. Pope was born in 1688 in a Roman Catholic family, and in his childhood he has developed a keen insight. He is very witty, intelligent, and something different from his predecessors. The 18th century England was also marked for an all-round peace and prosperity. And whenever there is peace and prosperity, no dearth of anything, it is all possible that different sort of deterioration, social, moral, spiritual deterioration would take place. So was the case with the contemporary English society, especially of the upper strata of English society. Pope was not a man to make any compromise. He was not a man to write just for the pleasure of the people, pleasure of his readers. Rather, it was his earnest attempt to bring out the real picture of the contemporary society. As you know, wit and satire are the most effective literary tools of the satirists. It was also true with Pope that he didn't have a very much physical structure. I mean to say, physically and intellectually he is very high. He is a man who used to get angry very easily, at the same time used to calm down soon. The circumstances, his family circumstances, social scenes prevailing, and others led him to write great satires. The Dunciad, Epistle to Dr. Arbuthnot, The Rape of the Lock. These are his greatest satires. As far the Rape of the Lock is concerned, it is his masterpiece. Originally, it was written in 2 cantos, and the first version of The Rape of the Lock was published in 1712. Later, in 2 years after, in 1714, after the huge success of the first version, it was extended up to 5 cantos. Pope equally was a great critic, one of the greatest critics rather. One thing more interesting is that his age is also called neoclassical age. Neoclassical term refers to the classical spirit, the classical instinct in the new age. It was 18th century. So critics have termed this age as neoclassical age. You can say classicism, the sense of classicism, the spirit of classicism once again tried to restore, tried to establish. That's why it is also called as neoclassical. And as I told you earlier, he was the representative poet, representative writer of 18th century. There is a very interesting background behind this great work, The Rape of the Lock. It happened so that Pope wrote this work on the suggestion, on the advice of his mentor friend John Carey. It is believed that Pope was not having much to write on those days. Remember, he was basically a critic, a satirist. And he was not having enough staple to come up with a new work. So he used to sit and discuss the things with John Carroll. And there were two friends, common friends family of John Carroll. And these two friend families of John Carroll had become enemies to each other. They had a dagger storm over a trifle, over a very simple trifle matter. It was the families of Miss Arabella Farmer and of Peter. And John Carroll advised Pope to write a work on the conflict of the trifles that had brought these two families at dagger's storm. Initially, Pope was not interested on writing such matter, as there was an apprehension, there was a risk. But after a wide discussion, Pope became ready, and he made some changes in the names, and very allegorically he did write this work. As he was very much apprehensive of the success of this work, so did he write it in just 2 cantos in its first publication. Miss Arabella Farmer is represented by Belinda in the work. Belinda is the heroine, the leading character of The Rape of the Lock, and her counterpart Lord Peter, that in fact belongs to represent rather the whole male fraternity. Pope finally wrote this, accomplished this with great effort. All trying to convey that the society, the male and their counterparts had gone to such deterioration spiritually, morally, that it could not be described in normal words, in normal language. So did he opt to the style of satire. But once it was published, it was taken by the readers very warmly. In literary words, it became a hot cake. and more importantly, that it did the desired effect. After this, those two families once again realized and they came together. And after the huge success, the grand success of this work, Pope later on added 3 cantos to it. The use of supernaturalism is mainly the main addition to the second enlarged version. Other than this, he gave it a further grand eloquent description. To conclude, it can be said that Pope was fully successful in bringing out the shortcomings, demerits, frivolities, the manners, the customs of the males and the females, in toto, the whole English contemporary society, in a very satirical manner. And as a critic, as a satirist, as a writer, he has been very much successful in bringing out what he meant to do. The Rape of the Lock remains to be one of the very fascinating, interesting satirical works, not only of Alexander Pope, but also in the history of English literature. Thanks for today. It was a general introduction, and in the second video, in the next video, I will present the Rape of the Lock as a mock epic or as a mock heroic. Thanks.